Hello, I'm Robbie, and welcome to my Canal Boat podcast. Hope you're enjoying it so far. It's completely new to me doing this, but I'm really enjoying it, being able to tell you more about how Canal Boat Diaries is made, my TV show that's out now on yesterday and on UK TV Play, the app where you can just basically stream all the episodes for free until your eyes bleed. It's great. With that little advert out the way, where am I currently? I'm currently on the Grand Union Canal in my boat, the Naughty Lass, and today I'm going to go through episode 3 of series 5 and give you some extra little tidbits of information that I think will make it even more enjoyable. So let's get stuck right in there with Birmingham, because we're mostly in exploring the centre of the Birmingham Canal network in the city of Birmingham. So we're doing Yardley Wood and then ending up on the Dudley Port, which is Dudley Port. We ended up in sort of the Bumblehole Nature Reserve, other side of the Netherton Tunnel. So there's loads to see in this one. Anyway, let's get cracking and cranking. Birmingham, important to me, the city, because it's the home of heavy metal, really. That's what I believe it to be. I am a big Black Sabbath fan, and you immediately see me ripping up a Black Sabbath t-shirt to do a job in the engine bay, which is not exactly what I intended for that shirt. I did check. It was I remember it being a bit too small or something, and I took the arms off, tried to turn it into a shirt instead, a vest instead, and that didn't really work out. So yeah, inevitably ended up as a rag. Like a lot of my clothes just ends up as you probably see me wearing clothes at some point, and then later on you see me clearing up some oil with them. But yeah, it's Birmingham, one of the best places to explore the UK canal system, and it's also shows you how much of a challenge the Canal and River Trust have got on their hands to keep it all running, because it's pretty crazy place, really. There's so much to see. Your head's always turning. So, after I've got started there, let's talk a bit more about the stern gland, because there's a better way of doing this for any boaters listening. I'm trying to pack some grease into this stern gland reservoir. It's what provides the seal around the extra seal around the propeller. Otherwise, you end up with too much water coming into the boat, which is not a good thing. Do not want that. And I haven't really done much. So every time I stop the boat, I'm always giving it a little turn. But there is an easier way of refilling this, and that's using the pot itself. But the thing is, I don't know if you've ever done this, but there's some of the grease. You open up the pot of grease, and it's got like a gasket to it. And it allows you just to place the the tube over the top of it. I'm trying to describe this in audio, it's quite difficult. And then you push down, and as you push, it sort of refills the tube. But sometimes you haven't got all the right things, and I just use whatever I've got on board a lot of the time, because you're just miles away from any chandlery for the most part. So there we'll get onto the Bourneville factory. That's pretty much one of the first things we spot along the way. No tour, unfortunately. We didn't have time to have a nice little tour of the chocolate factory. But I do explain how you make chocolate, which is a very, very simplified way. I just say, yes, add milk and chocolate crumb, and that's how they made chocolate. Well, obviously it's a bit more complicated than that. There's a few more ingredients, but I do have a little recipe for you if you want to try this. If you take some coconut oil and you melt that up, and then you add icing sugar and a bit of cocoa, or actually, if you want even more sugar in there, you just use some like drinking chocolate powder, maybe a bit of milk powder as well, just to make it more milky. Depends how dark you like your chocolate. But yeah, that if you mix that all together, and then you put it in the fridge, maybe you want to fill up a tray and make your own little chocolate bars. That's how you do it. And I learnt that just recently. I recommend that one if you're bored or if you've run out of chocolate. Right, so we go quite shortly on to a bit of a DIY project that I've been scraping away at for months, a little bit at a time. So this is when I was at Braunston. I started chipping away at it, and I actually had the boat surveyed, and they said, "Yep, just hammer away, it's fine, just go at it." And when I did, I used my welder's hammer. Unfortunately, there were some parts in this well deck floor where I just went straight through, and that was not a good moment. Luckily, I was close to a boatyard. Oh, my name escapes me. But there was a guy called Dan who's there, and he was a brilliant guy because he's not only was he a welder and he can sort me out with this problem, but he's actually a team leader for Canal River Trust. And what he was telling me was so interesting about his job, because sometimes he is on call and he gets a lot of alerts come through on his phone to tell him if there's a part of the system where the water's just gone down too low and he has to rush out and sort it out. So if you've been a boater and you've ever had a Canal River Trust staff member come out, sometimes it will be because they've got an alert on their phone, and some of these guys, especially when it floods, they're out there all hours trying to fix it. So, fair play to some of these blokes. And he did a great job. So we got a new overplated piece of steel on top of the water tank, and it cost me about 600 quid. So Dan, fantastic man he is. Dan's a fantastic man. He was just good to hang out with for a bit as well. But he had a family, so busy. So I moved on not long after that, left them all to it in the nice little boatyard, which I think was Swallow Cruisers. I think that was where it's based. Then we've got graffiti coming into Birmingham, and I explain, it might look terrible to some people, and later on we see that the Black Sabbath graffiti, it was really cool, like an amazing sight that people travel to see. And there's areas of Birmingham where it's just really lots of arty graffiti rather than just the scrawl stuff. But much worse than any of these little tags that just appear that aren't that great was a guy I found sprawled on the towpath as I was coming in on the Worcester and Birmingham Canal, that side of Birmingham. He was just sprawled on the towpath with his trousers down, completely out of it, and syringes close by scattered around, and it's just really sad to see. But that's the real side of it that I can't even show, can't film that. I probably wouldn't want to, because it's quite sad, really. But yeah, the guidelines filming for BBC or even for UK TV yesterday, which is all owned by BBC. Can't film vulnerable people. It wouldn't be fair. There's some real stuff like that happens on the way, and doesn't make it into the programme for the most obvious reasons, I guess. But yeah, I do see some stuff. I see some shit, you know what I'm saying. Pretty soon, get onto one of the first aqueducts, Holiday Street Aqueduct, this one. And I remember whilst waiting for the drone, I got asked by some Chinese tourists if I was a hire boat. I should have charged them some money, really. I should have said, yeah, hop on, 500 quid each. But obviously I was waiting for the drone to get in place so that we could film the next part into Gas Street Basin itself, to moor up there. Mooring up the opposite side of where I moored in season 2. And then we get to some amazing editing. Matt Clare, who's done himself proud here. He's always trying to stitch me up, I think. No, for the most part, he makes me look very, very good. And there's something happens with my toilet tank. It fills up, and I've got my little shot of it, and he's edited it so well so that it cuts to the adverts, and I just think there's no other programme where it would have a shot of the toilet, a full up toilet, and then the titles of the show, and then going straight to the adverts. I think that's genius from Matt there. And editing takes such a long time. I'm quite glad I don't have to do so much of it anymore. And it's partly why my YouTube channel, I had to cut back on that because, well, for anyone who doesn't know, making a video for YouTube, yep, it's great fun, you're filming it, and then all of a sudden you realise you've got a lot of footage you've got to go through, especially if you're getting creative with it all and using drone shots and extra cameras. And then you realise you're spending about 10 times the amount of time you take to film it, editing it, inside, not having that much fun a lot of the time. So yeah, a lot of people don't really understand that. I think people who do make their own vlogs do understand it, but yeah, it's probably why a lot of people make them for a little while and don't carry on, because it is a lot of work. You have to make a lot of sacrifices with your life to get it all done. So, yep, I'm grateful for Matt for editing, and I'm also grateful for producer Stu because he suggested that we put in the logbook, and the logbook is actually where I started out putting, as I say on the programme, all the details of the upgrades that I made to the boat. And then pretty soon when I was making my YouTube videos, I needed somewhere to thank people, and I do it on this podcast as well. People who sign up to my Patreon, which is patreon.com/Robbie Cumming, and this is where I've got my Crank It crew. And my Crank It crew are just people that have been really generous, and they make things like this podcast possible. And I've got my producers and captains, sort of different levels of donations that they give, and they're all in this logbook. I couldn't show it on the show because obviously that'll be advertising something that's outside of the programme, which is, that's tricky. That's a bit iffy, that. So obviously couldn't promote Patreon, but the Crank It crew, the logbook itself makes it in anyway. I was proud of that. Then we got to exploring the loops near Gas Street Basin. I definitely recommend this. Anyone wants to just dip their toes into exploring Birmingham and the canal system there. You can walk it as well as taking your boat there, but it's easy, it's fascinating, and just give it a go. I got stuck once, didn't get anything else wrapped around the propeller. In fact, in this episode, which can take about a week to film if we're on it every day. If you want to explore the Birmingham Canal navigations, I think a definite starting point could be the Soho Loop and the Ickneld Loop that are very close to Gas Street Basin, so it's easy walking distance. And you'll see you'll see the more industrial parts. It's all nice and overgrown and dilapidated buildings, all that sort of stuff if you're into that. If you're into that, the Birmingham Canal navigations is your bag, definitely. For boaters, I found it quite easy. Your head's turning, there's loads to see, and definitely recommend it. So yeah, don't be scared. That's what my main point is. And then we end up going on the engine arm up through the Smethwick locks, so we're starting to go a little bit off the beaten track now, and I definitely recommend doing that as well, because you're not too far away from the main line. So yeah, don't be scared is what I want to say to other boaters. And then there's a bit in the show where we talk about a vegan, eco-friendly washing up soap, and I feel like we've got to do our bit on the show to show what there is available, in terms of alternatives like that, because it is a bit of an alternative lifestyle. All my water's going into the canal, and if you get too many bad chemicals going into the canal, it does encourage things like algae bloom and all that sort of stuff, apparently. So yeah, if I can use something that's a bit more eco, that makes sense. I didn't stick with it though. I went back to using what do I use, like Method and Ecover, that sort of stuff, the liquid, but it's another alternative. I just found it left a bit too much residue on glass and stuff, and a little bit messy. But it might work better for other people who do their washing up a bit differently. I don't know. On the Tipford Canal next, I got stuck in a lock, and it shows you exactly why you should take your fenders up. So there's a good tip for beginners. And well, even me, I've been doing this 9 years and I still make these sort of mistakes. I've got a lot to look out for though. I've got to set up my cameras and everything and get the audio right and make sure I'm, you know, in place ready for the drone flying above as well. So that's my excuse. But yeah, the fenders, they do protect your boat from bumping into things, I guess, and certainly need them for when you're mooring, but for the most part you can probably just put them on the roof. I'm just a bit lazy, I think. But you know, I really regretted it going to this lock because it just got completely stuck. Genuinely could not get it out. That was the first lock I got to, so that was not great because we had to do several more. And there was a lot of what we didn't show. What we didn't show is me rushing up and down the locks on a very hot day. It was about 25, 26 degrees, hot enough. No, it might have been 28 actually. But anyway, 28 degrees Celsius, running up and down these locks, and it's just trying to let the water in because there was an added challenge of the water levels that we don't show. So when I do get to the end, when I'm going up to Tipford Pools, the big lakes at the end by the motorway, it really, I was absolutely shattered. So I was very grateful for getting a curry at the end. And we actually had that all together as a team, myself and Stu and drone pilot, and it was lovely. But because I pretty much stuffed myself in the restaurant, when I got back to the boat, I did film myself eating it again, but I guess the footage was it just doesn't really work. We didn't use it in the end, so God, I ate a lot that night. Yeah, so hats off to the chefs, they did a good job. And the guy in the restaurant, the owner, he was very chatty. When that happens, we usually have to do a number of takes to sort of make sure it's not all them just going on and on about their business, you know what I mean? So, but he was great, and the food was fantastic. The Black Country Museum, I get to moor outside. I did actually visit, so there'll be a lot of people watching that say, "Oh, why didn't you go inside, Robbie?" Well, I did. It's just they wanted a lot of money to film there, so I just saved that trip for another day. And instead I got to explore and film in the Dudley Tunnel, which is owned by the Canal River Trust. So obviously they're really keen for me to film, and they're very good. They let me film for free. They could charge me a lot of money, but I guess what I'm doing for them is showing people that these canals exist. So it's a little bit of give and take on the advertising sort of front, even though we're not advertising. Yeah, complicated, but we worked together on that one, I guess. But yeah, Dudley Tunnel, amazing. I couldn't get my boat in there because they don't let powered boats in for safety reasons. And the electric boat was a lot quicker anyway. If you like caves, well worth it. Because you go in, it's not just a tunnel. You go in and it just opens up and there's caverns there, and you're hearing stories about how deep these caverns go, and it will blow your mind. So I definitely recommend taking the tour. Yeah, I won't give too much away, but it's well worth having the tunnels tour. There is there is a tunnel tour that goes on about 6 hours. I don't remember that. I don't recommend that with a hangover. I did do that with my crank it crew. We went and we had a bit of a summer get together, and yeah, that was tough to sit through that in silence whilst they're telling you all the history along the way. Very interesting, but wow, 6 hours, perhaps a bit too long. I've got to say a big thank you to the couple that had their cover taken off by a low bridge. Well, not completely taken off, but it was a brand new cover and they had it damaged. Yeah, thanks for them for being such good sports and letting us use the footage. And I want to say, if they're listening, it happens to a lot of boaters. So don't feel too bad, especially when you've got attachments like this pram cover at the back. So that gives you that extra space at the stern there, and shelter from the rain. Yeah, taking that down in the rain when you're going under a bridge, that has caused a few boats to come a cropper. So yeah, don't feel bad about that one, because it has happened to other people I've talked to. Finally, we end up going through Netherton Tunnel, 3,027 yards long, built to alleviate congestion really on the other tunnel we went through earlier, the Dudley Tunnel, and it was at one stage it's got towpath either side. It was one stage gaslit, gaslighting, and then they changed it to electric lighting. But now it's they just leave them off, which makes it very dark. But that's why boats all have their lights on the front. Actually, at that point, I still hadn't connected my navigation light, but we had to get in like quite a big chunky light that you might use on a building site or something like that. So we had enough light to film with and to see where I'm going. Even though it's a wider tunnel, passed a boat along the way, and it was designed to alleviate so that it wasn't a bottleneck, so that both boats could pass at the same time. And then that's it. We end up in Bumblehole Nature Reserve. There's a nice cafe there, so definitely recommend walking around there as well. That's a beautiful spot where you just feel like, even though you are in a suburban West Midlands area, in Dudley, that area, Netherton, it sort of transports you into the countryside as well, because lots of lovely little rolling hills and everything. And that's it for episode 3. I hope you enjoyed the little behind the scenes chat there. Thanks for listening again, and hope you're enjoying Canal Boat Diaries. That's on again on yesterday and the UK TV Play app. Another little ad there. Cheers for listening. Take care and keep cranking. Bye.